up or down? Were you up or down?
I finished up. I did very well, and during the holiday as well, was seeking out new music while I was away.
Okay.
Flew down to San Diego to see a new band called the Night Marchers, who will be the best band ever when they release stuff later this year, and we'll be playing it as soon as we can.
All right, brilliant. So thank you for that. Seeking out new music, even on the other side of the Atlantic. We've got Super Posh Rufus, who is such a classy guy. He's worn a woolen tie today. Did you knit that yourself?
I didn't, Steve. No, I stole it from my previous landlord.
Sure.
And it's it bears the legend Harvey Nichols London. I'm dating this around the early 70s. It's made of pure cashmere.
Well, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And why are you so smart today?
Well, Steve, you've kind of tasked me. We've tasked all of us with kind of stepping up to the plate slightly and just raising the cultural value of the show. And I've done my own little bit of research. Of course, I'm obsessed with new music, as you well know. And
Yes.
I'm barely a minute of the day with my eyes are open pass without me listening to something new. But I've also been casting my eye over the concept of modern chivalry.
Okay, great.
And later in the show, I might be sharing some gems of what it is to be a modern gentleman. And wearing a tie is all part of that. And it's part of my new resolution.
Well, as you say, if you are a new listener to the show, or maybe you've just not bothered listening for a long time, you got bored with us at the end of last year, we have tried to remix the show a little for 2008 and give it a little bit of meat on the bone. And so hopefully we will be, as you say, we're having things which are useful to the listener. They can take them, they can use them in their lives. It may be a sideways look at the week's news, which they can then discuss around the water cooler, aside from all the new music as well. For instance, the lovely Sammy, who's with us, she's come down from the north. You've been looking at, last week you were looking at the ladies' mags.
I was. This week I've gone up market in Lady Magland, and I've gone for Vogue.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I bet you felt pretty classy when you walked into a shop and asked for that.
They didn't let me
stock
have
it up
it.
north?
I actually had to send someone in on my behalf because they weren't going to let me have it. I wasn't classy enough. I look too common, apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, no, they're right there. I mean, so you'll be giving us your appraisal of that.
Without a doubt.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, listen, before we get to some sartorial words of advice from Rufus, we need to have some new music from you.
Yeah, we do. This is a track by a band called The Elephants, which I came across on one of those free CDs you get on the front of Word magazine.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. Very good, esteemed magazine. It's the sun was out really bright this morning. It seems to have gone a bit this afternoon. I hope wherever you're listening, it's a bright sunny day. But it reminded me of
Hey,
those.
thanks.
That was very Steve Wright.
Thanks very much indeed. Which Steve Wright do you mean?
Not murderous, strangling Steve Wright. Other Steve Wright.
Right, great. Just need to clear that up.
And this song reminds me of those kind of summer stompers by Top Loader and the Wake Up Boo song and all of that,
dear.
which are very unpopular, very uncool to like.
Sure.
But this is quite a cool song. It's called 5 Minutes. It's by The Elephants.
The Elephants, 5 minutes, it's the choice of Rufus on this week's Steve Show. And so, as I say, we've been trying to give a bit more content to the Steve Show because I think you, probably like us, have grown tired of our endless wittering. And so we've decided that it's important that, well, basically, this came about because I decided that there's just so many factors of life that I don't fully understand, so many elements that I don't fully comprehend, that I can't discuss confidently in the pub. And so we thought, wouldn't it be useful to you, the listener, that you can, perhaps you're using the Listen Again feature, it's a Wednesday afternoon, and you've got a meeting later with a couple of important work colleagues, maybe they're sort of upper echelons of your company. You're sort of still working in the mailroom, let's say, and you want to impress them. You want to seem like you've got a bit of gristle in your gob. I don't know. Is that a phrase? I don't know. It's a sort of it could be a phrase. You can coin that as a phrase right now. That's the great thing about the English language.
Gristle in your gob.
What it means is you've got a bit of iron in your pencil. Is that right? No, lead in your pencil.
Strange.
Listen, I was sick, okay, and I was just reading the dictionary, but not really understanding how the words all fit together. But listen, the point is this. You need to be able to walk out of your meeting feeling, yes, I was able to impart something. And who better to offer information on the modern man, the contemporary man, how the contemporary man should act, behave, than Rufus. He's super posh, he's dressed in a tie today, he's the sort of man that if you met him, you'd think, ooh, I've just fallen back into the 1950s. You'd think you'd slip through a portal in time, Doctor Who style, and you'd met someone who works in a department store from 1954. and that's fantastic, and we love that about Rufus, and that's why he's here. And so you feel, Ruth, that you can impart sort of words of wisdom just about how... how would you label this new feature?
Well, Steve, I very much think that when the music stops on this show, people take out notepads, lick pencils, and sit with their ears pressed closely to the speaker, waiting for me or you, or Sammy or Harry or Dan, whoever, to start talking.
Yes.
I want to raise the tone of the show by considering what it is to be a...
Now, Jude's been doing some work. She's not just been sitting on her arm, and she has composed some music that will accompany this feature.
Okay. Great. Good gracious. Oh, okay.
Now that is exactly the kind of music I expect to hear in my head as I see you walking down the street. Brolly, bowler hat on, as you're trotting down the road in black and white. I'm not going to lie to you. You just hopped off of a red double-decker bus.
An omnibus. I'm just thinking this is saving time for the people who make the trails, because they always end up putting this sort of music in the background of things I say anyway, so, you know.
Wacky music.
If you put chivalry into Google, you get all sorts of interesting references, including a book called The Moisturized Man, which I thought was very interesting. A look at the metrosexual man. And lots of stuff about moustaches, about ties, and so on. And I got diverted quickly to a magazine website that I looked at before, The Chap magazine. Have you ever come across The Chap magazine?
I think I'm familiar with Chap magazine.
It's very, very good. I've got a little bit from their manifesto, which I'm going to read out because it's so well written. It says that pleasantness and civility are being discarded as the worthless ephemera of a bygone age.
That's true.
We have to change that. It says we live in a world where children are huge hooded creatures lurking in the shadows.
That's right.
The local hostelry has been taken over by a large chain that specialises in chilled lager.
Yep.
Who's and so on. And it says the Chap proposes to take a stand against this culture of vulgarity. We must show our children that the things worth fighting for are not the latest plastic plimsolls, but a shiny pair of brogues.
Absolutely.
We must wean them off their alcopops and teach them how to mix martinis. Let the young not be ashamed of their flabby paunches, which they should try to hide in their nylon tracksuits. We shall show them how a well-tailored suit can disguise the most ruined of bodies. Finally, let us capitalise on youth's love of peculiar argot, only replace their pigeon ghetto speak with fruity bon mot and dry witticisms.
Absolutely. And they've come to the right guy. I mean, I like to think that you've stolen that manifesto, you've applied it to this section of the show.
Exactly.
Because I suspect we do have a lot of youthful listeners, many of them now just perhaps sort of drowsily coming to after a wild night in some kind of Ibiza-themed club. Perhaps in Birmingham, somewhere like that. Can you imagine such vulgarity? And so, what can you impart? Is there any? Where to begin?
Well, I think the essence of gentlemanly behaviour is if you put chivalry and you get lots of stuff. Americans are obsessed with chivalry. It seems much more than British people, and it talks about being helpmates to women. Lots of things about being helpmates to women, which I think is rather kind of patronising and offensive. And also avoiding scandal and gossip, which is something we obviously do day by day. I think it's more to do with a kind of a cultured indolence. I think if you're in bed and listening to the show, good for you. Whether you're a student or not, it's good to get up very late. Being a gentleman is often about not necessarily being lazy, but just not putting too much effort into things because you're effortlessly getting them just right.
Okay,
there's a wonderful phrase here where it says, ours is a revolution not on getting up early and exerting oneself, but a revolution that can be achieved by a single raised eyebrow over a monocle. The ordering of a glass of port in an all bar one. The wearing of a particularly fetching cardigan upon a visit to one's bookmaker. In other words, a revolution of panache.
Yes.
And I think that's what I want to bring to the show today, Steve. Right. I want to encourage listeners to email in with chivalric conundrums.
Is that the word?
I'm going to say it is, yeah.
You know what? That's exactly what a gentleman would do. He doesn't give a damn if that's the English language. That's the same as me. I just make up words and phrases willy-nilly. So confident am I that it will be accepted because of my gentlemanly qualities.
Exactly. With hair this good and a tie made of cashmere, I can say chivalric and be absolutely.
So you want from the listeners what? You want their own chivalric experiences?
Their conundrums, their problems, their questions, their queries. Dear Rufus, I didn't know whether not to open a door for a pregnant woman the other day on the bus. Dear Rufus, I didn't know whether or not to help someone up the stairs on the tube with a pram.
Sure.
Dear Rufus, I saw a woman drop 4 oranges the other day. I picked up 3 of them and left her to pick up the 4th. Was this correct?
Sure, absolutely.
Stuff like
My
this.
goodness me, I'm just wondering now. She's got 3 oranges, you've left her to pick up the 4th.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what kind of door could you open for someone on the tube?
Yeah.
I can't think of a tube unless she's holding an advent calendar. I can't think of what door you would open for her, but nevertheless, I fully understand your eye point. Just quickly before we move on, then before we should just give out the email. What is the email? Does anyone know?
Stephen.6music@bbc.co.uk.
Stephen.6music@bbc.co.uk. The text is
64046.
64046. If you have any chivalric queries, questions, conundrums, or experiences of your own. But yes, in the case of the oranges, what should one do?
Pick up all 4, leave her to pick up the 5th.
Absolutely.
Simple as that.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, keep those thingies coming in, and we will be back soon after this. Temptations, Ball of Confusion, cracking tune. For From 1970, The Temptations and Baller Confusion, open brackets. That's what the world is today, close brackets. You need to get everything right for the Six Music listener. And what a fantastic tune. And of course, many of those lyrics there still very pertinent today, except the new Beatles record, What a Gas. Perhaps not quite as contemporary. And there's also a lyric there, the hippies are taking to the mountains. Maybe they are. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not keeping track of the hippies. Don't know what they're up to at the moment. I can't honestly say. If you're a hippie, are you in a mountain? 64046 Stephen.6music. Okay, so we need to rush to the news. Also, I should just mention we got some live music later. Looking forward to it from Doug Walker. Also, we've got James King, who's a kind of just a general know-it-all about films, and he'll be offering us his appraisal of the Oscars. And obviously, as I say, the show now is very much what you can pass off as your own views. And if you don't have any opinions of your own, just listen to what we say, and then you can utilise them yourself tomorrow at work. So James will be helping us with that. Before we get to the news, we are asking for your questions for Rufus, questions on gentlemanly conduct, sartorial dress sense, and all the rest. Quick question for you. Don't give me the answer now. We'll wait till after the news. Imagine I've taken a girl out on a date, right? Naturally, I've paid on the first date. I've actually paid for everything. Don't look at me like that, Harry. I have, okay? I've paid for the second date, right? I've paid for that as well. I've taken for the meal, right? Let's say things are moving on. It's getting into it. At what point do I stop always paying for the meal? At what point, how do I make it known to the woman that it's about time she got her wallet out? Do you know what I mean? And perhaps we at least went Dutch. You know what I mean? And then maybe in years to come, that maybe she would pick up the tab once in a while. Okay, so it's a difficult one, very difficult. I don't know how you move into that position. I want your stewing on that, and we'll be back after the news with Rufus's answer. Steve Show, BBC Six Music with me, Steve Merchant. That was Franz Ferdinand, Tell Her Tonight. Before the news, I pose Rufus a question, a chivalric question of my own. Is that right? Is that
I think
what
we'll have to go for chivalric.
Chivalric.
Yeah.
Okay, a chivalric query. I've taken a girl out. I've gone to a restaurant with her. I've picked up the tab. Natch. Second time out, also picked up the tab. Now we've been going out a couple of months. She has not even put her hand in her purse once. Involved. Do you know what I mean? It's expensive restaurants, Rufus. I don't know. How do I broach the subject? What do I do? Well, firstly, is it presumed that I should pay?
The bad news is you have to keep paying, I think.
What?
The difficult situation is that it's vulgar for a gentleman to ever discuss money or be seen with real paper money in his hand.
Okay, right. Yes.
You have to keep paying until she offers to pay, whereupon you refuse politely once, and then gently and delicately insist that you split the bill halfway. At that point, you shouldn't start saying, well, I didn't have onion bhaji's.
Right.
And to be honest, you had a bit of my steak and all that.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw to Harry because he had a couple of pretty harsh words as well, didn't he?
Yeah, well, my view on it is that if you're continuing to pay for the lady, then you should have the ability to order for her.
Okay,
and so the longer it goes on, say 4 or 5 dates, you should start ordering stuff that she quite clearly won't like.
Sure.
And sooner or later, she'll get the message.
Good. And so, I mean, a man like yourself, Har, I've known you for many, many years. I can't imagine you picking up the tab even on that first date.
No, I do, but I try and write off his expenses. say I'm like seeing a client.
Yeah, you just get her to write a receipt for you.
Yeah,
I'll
get a VAT receipt. What kind of muppet doesn't get a VAT receipt?
Sammy, you are a lady.
Sometimes.
Lest we forget. What would you expect of the gentleman?
I've always viewed this differently because I think it's a little condescending for the gentleman to always pay. I think Dutch is fine. I think every now and then someone should just be very forward and say, no, I'm going to get this one. Tonight's on me. But I think it should work both ways. It is very nice for a girl sometimes to be treated, but I assume gentlemen also enjoy that.
Yes.
But I don't think a man should never ever pay or never ever offer.
But it shouldn't be presumed by the lady.
It shouldn't, no.
When a girl once first said to me, do you want to go Dutch? I thought it was a... I didn't know, did I?
I'm in there.
Ding dong, here we go.
Yeah, wink to the camera.
Yeah, I can't believe my luck. But no, it did not involve licking fingers in dikes or whatever. I don't know. Is that Dutch? Was that Dutch story? I don't know, whatever. So we've had a couple of texts and emails.
Texts are flooding in, Steve. I
bet they are.
This has got people panting in a way that very few articles we come up with in the show recently have. We've had all sorts of. I've only come up with one very good. I've got tons of really good texts here, but I've got a short one here. Dear Rufus, what's